Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Like I promised, Michelle is in the video today because we're talking about our trip back home during the COVID-19 pandemic and how the experience was. It was really crazy and scary. We were very anxious. I left for Nairobi on the 9th of March and I came back on the 19th. I had to cut my trip short because things were getting crazy and I was afraid that the borders were going to get closed. I know like many of you have asked when I released the Cuba video, where did I go? But by the time I was going on the 9th of March, it wasn't as rampant, it wasn't as crazy, there were not many cases. I don't even think there was even one, I can't even remember. But there was no I was going to cancel this trip because really guys, I was not going to get my money back. I needed to give 21 days notice. It was once in a lifetime trip and I didn't think it was going to be an issue then. So that's why I went. But then in the middle of my trip, I had to cancel and come back home 3 days earlier because things just were going crazy and I was afraid they were going to close the borders. I was coming from Havana to Kenya, but Michelle was in the UK studying. So she'll tell you her experience and how it escalated and why she wanted to come home.
Yeah, so I was studying and I don't usually come home for Easter break. So I expected the next time I'd be coming home would be like August because I was supposed to graduate in July. So when it first hit the UK, it was mostly concentrated, actually started in York and Bristol, which both places are over 2 hours away from where I live, so it didn't seem like such a big issue. In my city, everything was moving along as normal. And then towards the end of February, we had our first case, someone that had come back from South Korea, and unfortunately he went into an office block in the city before he was diagnosed. So then the cases started growing from there, and then that's when I started to get anxious because the cases were growing. And then also the nature of uni is that you're sharing a lot of things. You're sharing desks, you're sharing like bus seats, all these different things, and you can't really control that. And as much as you can go into class and like wipe down surfaces and wear gloves, it interrupts your studies and you feel apprehensive to go to school. So I think at that point, majority of the students started emailing our university, asking them to take some kind of action, asking them why I was still going to school. And then on March 16th, my uni finally moved all of my classes online and told us that we no longer have to go to campus. At that point, I'd been talking back and forth with my parents and telling them the situation. At first, they didn't think I should go home.
I refused.
I was deeply hurt by. I was like, guys, parents are calling them, telling them to go home ASAP, and you're asking me, is it really necessary for you to come home?
I'm black, I'm African, my friend.
It felt like they didn't want me to come home in case I had it and I infect everyone else. Like, if you're infected, just stay on your ones, figure it out.
Guys, I have to defend myself. The thing is this. I thought she was just panicking, and I remember talking to the dad, and Michelle was like, can I come home? I told the dad, are you serious? No, let us stay a bit. Maybe this thing is going to die down. And you know, the thing with her, she's very, she's very determined. She never gives up. So I remember we kept saying no like for a week, and then the next week she said she'll call every single day until we allow her to come home.
I reached a point, I'm like, you know what guys, I'm buying my ticket. We can talk about, you can refund me once I'm back home, but I'm buying my ticket.
Refund with her pocket money. Yeah, guys.
Like, I'm coming home.
Yeah.
So anyway, by that point it was getting quite bad. So then dad called me. Mom, she was still in Cuba, so I was talking to dad at this time. So he called me and he's like, okay, I think they're getting really bad. And he's like, I've transferred the money, buy a ticket and come home. And I live with a roommate in the UK, so she's also from Kenya as well. And her parents, funny enough, had the same reaction as mine. And then eventually everyone was like, oh wow, this thing is real, come home now. So we booked our flights together. And then we planned to leave. Yeah,
so we arrived together on the 19th, yeah?
Yeah, on the 19th.
So I arrived at midday and she came in the evening.
Yeah, later in the afternoon.
Yeah. So we arrived together on the 19th, and by that time in their town, their city Nottingham, they already had one case or more than one. By the time
at that time it had grown to like 10 to 15 cases.
What?
Yeah, and my city is like a uni city, so majority of the people there are students a lot of the time. So, and with students, literally the moment something is caught, it will spread like a wildfire. Like there was a case of mumps on our campus a while ago and a bunch of people caught it just because you share a lot of surfaces. So the last week before I left, it gotten to the point where we weren't going to uni at all. Like we were at home, we're ordering our groceries online, we're sanitizing everything, and that's when we decided like, nah, it's time to go home because we're basically not even going to school. So what's the point?
And were you having like, did people start panic buying? and all that.
Yeah, people had started panic buying. If you went to the stores, you could see that the toilet paper was done, the water
So it was
was
for
in short
real?
supply. Yeah, it was actually getting bad. It took longer to come to the smaller cities. I think that most of the panic was happening in London first, but it started to reach us at that point. Yeah, and then people started going home as well. Yeah.
Okay, so guys, so we came back the same day. For me, it hit me when the cases in the UK were getting more and more, and in Cuba, I think by that time we had 1 or 2 cases. So you know what, I had to cut my trip short because the Havana trip, which was organized by the Havana Salsa group in the UK, was ending on the 19th, and I decided to leave Cuba on the 16th, or let's say 16th or 17th in the morning, like at 5 a.m. in the morning. So what happened is, like I said earlier in the video before, that I was in Varadero, which is like 3 hours from the airport. Don't forget, guys, when I left Nairobi, I did not buy any masks and any gloves. So when I was in Cuba, I also didn't have access to them, and they were not available. So guys, I was just the way I was. I had no mask, I had no gloves. So in that morning, I remember I couldn't even sleep because the night before I came back to Nairobi, the people in our group were getting messages because most of them are from the UK. Their kids are already quarantined at home. Some their kids are nurses. They're already worried. Some of them, actually 2 people in our group, their kids were sick, and one of them, the mom was living in an elderly person's home, and she was sick. So the panic had like really gotten worse, and my anxiety was heightened, and I was worried. So I didn't sleep at night. I remember I was so awake. 4 o'clock I packed. I went to the airport. It was 3 hours away. When I got to the airport, guys, everyone has a mask, everyone has gloves. I'm the only one. Don't forget, this color is standing out, guys. Hakuna makeup hiyo siku, uko vile uko. So I'm there. The processing is so slow. Like I said, Cuba is very, very slow. It took me 2.5 hours to get processed, to go through security, and to go and wait for my flight. Now, the trick is, from Havana, we didn't go straight to Istanbul. We had to stop to Caracas, which is Venezuela. So what Turkish Airlines does, it first comes to Havana, drops people in Havana, which is Cuba, then it ends the flight at Caracas, which is Venezuela. So from Havana, we went to Caracas, Venezuela. When we got there was a fracas. Wherever we parked the plane, they refused. They said, you know what, not allowed. People are on panic. So the crew were not able to offload the passengers who were coming from Havana to Caracas, and they were refused. So what happened is, first of all, there's a breakdown of communication with the Turkish airline crew. So they are not speaking Spanish, most of them. I remember there was a big argument for like 15 minutes. We are all scared on the plane. We're wondering what's happening. We are not supposed to people who are not coming out in Caracas, we're not supposed to, we're not being offloaded. We're just supposed to wait for an hour, guys, to come out. And then the ones who are boarding from Caracas to enter to go to Istanbul to come in. Guys, we've been told no, we are not, no one is leaving the plane. I remember the nurses came. Every single person on that plane, their temperature was taken. Every single person. Don't forget, this plane had more than 200 people. Every single person, they took their temperature. At that time, anxiety is rising. There is no internet. There is no network. So you can't communicate. You're just there. We are hearing them arguing. Then they moved us from where we had parked to another place for another parking. At that time, it was already like 1 hour, 30 minutes. Eventually, when they had noted down everyone's temperature, 2 passengers were offloaded from the plane. I think their temperatures were above 37.5 or something like that. So those ones were told they cannot continue the journey. By this time, the guys were supposed to now leave the plane to go to land in their home, which is Caracas, Venezuela, had not left. So these 2 passengers came out. And then eventually, after like maybe another 30 minutes, now we've been down there. We've been on the, it's called the what? Where the planes, Michelle?
The runway.
The runway, hapo pale tumenini. We had stayed there like for 2 hours. Eventually, people who were like coming, like that is where their final destination was Caracas, eventually now were allowed to come out, which was 2 hours later. And then after that, another 45 minutes where they sanitized the whole plane, they cleaned, they had this machine, they sanitized everywhere and everyone. At that time, don't forget, everyone on that plane, most of them have a mask. I don't have one. So I was very scared. And the thing is, the good part is where I was, there was a lot of space where I could move. So we had a lot of distance. And then eventually, we went to Istanbul, which was a long flight, but at least the plane was not that full. And in Istanbul is a story for the next few minutes. Let Michelle say her experience from where did you board? Did you board in Nottingham or London?
No, London. Luckily, my journey wasn't as hectic as hers. So I live about like a 2-hour drive away from London. I usually leave from a city called Birmingham that's like an hour drive away from mine. But based on the timings of the flight, we decided London was easier because we were trying to get home as soon as possible. Because again, same as her, there was so much uncertainty as to when the borders were closing. Both to Kenya and the UK, because there had been rumors that the airports might shut down, because I think 2 days ago Barcelona had a total lockdown, and that included the airports. So the people that I know that study in Barca literally got out the day before, and the next day the airports were shut down indefinitely, or at least it was supposed to be for 14 days, but I think it might still be ongoing. Not 100% sure about that. So we decided we're going to leave from London. We packed our bags really quickly, cleaned our house, sorted everything, and then we just got in a taxi, ordered it, and we went to London. When we got to the airport, it was packed, like properly packed. Like there were lines even leading outside of Heathrow. I've never seen that before. Like people actually lining up outside the airport, all the way from like close to where you pick the trolleys. Like it was really full. People seemed frustrated. Even the lady that was checking us in, she was frustrated, and she told us like they're having a really rough time because there's obviously a huge influx of passengers. People are frustrated and anxious, and obviously that means that they're gonna talk to the staff badly for some people. So you could like feel a vibe around the airport. Obviously people had masks, some had gloves on, but then in certain areas it was scary as well because people were standing very close to each other, and we were just looking around and we're like, that doesn't seem okay, like in the time that we're in. So we checked in everything, we went through, we're waiting for our flight, we're walking around the airport, we went to the lounge for a bit, and then when we got to the lounge, a guy actually told us that some airports were shutting down. So for example, on that day, Dubai had closed its borders to anyone that wasn't a citizen or a resident. So passengers, so there were some Arab passengers on our flight from like Kuwait, for example, who actually had to be offloaded and cancelled from or removed from the flight because they could no longer travel. So there was just a lot of anxiety around it, in that it seemed like things, and he literally said that it had happened 2 hours prior. So these guys had booked, some of them had even already checked in their bags. The announcement is made, done, you can't go anymore. And then when we're walking around, you're seeing people in the airport. Some people had hazmat suits, like full on, even like those things to cover their shoes, like the ones doctors wear. Like some people were covered head to toe. And you wanted to do that? So we're looking around. Okay, we at least had gloves. We didn't carry masks, but we like used our scarves as masks, I guess, because we couldn't find masks. By the time we're leaving Nottingham, literally we're lucky we got gloves before everything went bad, because we decided we're gonna shop ahead of time just to be safe. But by the time we tried, sanitizer had run out and masks had run out, so we just said we'll use our scarves, which we did, and that seemed to be fine. So we're walking around, everyone had masks on, everything. I traveled with those disinfectant wipes, you know, the ones that you usually use to wipe down surfaces in your house. We traveled with them, so everywhere we went, we'd wipe it down. If we sit down at a table, we wipe the chair down, the table down, change gloves after that as well. So we carried a whole pack of gloves, for example, and when we first went to get the trolleys outside, we had one pair of gloves that we used for that, threw them away once we put our suitcase onto the rail, used a new pair of gloves for our interaction with the person who was checking us in, touching our passport, sanitize the passport after she'd given it back to us, change the gloves again. We go upstairs if we're eating or sitting down, change the gloves, wipe everything down. And actually security was the biggest one as well, because those trays are actually filthy. Like if you think about the volume of people that go through, throw their stuff on it, and you have to take out your laptop, you have to put your electronics down, like you can't avoid that. So we wiped the trays down, we put everything, once we took our stuff off, we still wiped our suitcases, everything down. Suitcases were good. So we were being really cautious, but we were also very anxious, because you can only do so much. Like there's a chance you might miss a corner, or a chance you might touch something and you don't realize it. So for sure, me and my roommate were really anxious, but for me it helped that I had someone that I was traveling with. So I didn't feel as alone or as scared, because she was there as well. And yeah, so we just tried to minimize our touch with anyone. We'd sit away from people, tried not to walk around too much. Once we got onto the plane, before we sat down to our seats, we wiped everything, including the screens, the remotes, everything. We wiped it down, and we used a new set of gloves for that. Threw them away. When they gave us like drinks, we'd wipe down the glass first. So we're being really careful. The air hostesses had masks and gloves, so that was good as well. We tried not to eat on the plane too much as well, because that was uncertain. And then for me, another thing that actually increased the anxiety as well, or made it a bit better, I think I'd say, is I found a lot of other Kenyan students on that flight, or like in the airport. We bumped into so many people coming home, and it reassured us that one, we're not the only ones like going through it, but two, we're on time, like we're not late, because that's another thing we're worrying about, is if we were late to come home, and we were fine. And then one frustrating thing I'll say though, and I think could have been handled better, is the airport situation once you get to Kenya. Because when everyone came from the flight, it was just chaos. It was one of the first days when they'd introduced the letter where you have to sign whatever saying you'll self-quarantine for 14 days. Fine, no problem. We'll sign it, we'll stay in our houses, no problem. But we're doing this to stop the spread of corona. So how are you going to have everyone, literally, it was just a cluster of people. There were like 2 guards there telling people we signed the paper. No pens provided, first of all. So everyone was sharing, because of course you want to get out of there and you're going to help the person that's next to you. Secondly, when you finish your form, you're told, ingia line up, madam. Okay, where's the line? There's 3 different lines merging into one. Like, guys, finish the paper, this one comes to join from here, this one's joining from here, this one's joining from here. At the end of the day, everyone was like clustered into one big bunch, because people are trying to leave, first of all, avoid standing in that, whatever, the immigration area for too long. So, okay, luckily for us, we came in early, so we didn't have to stand in the line for too long. But I just thought, for a whole flight, by the time everyone has entered that place, even if you didn't have corona, there's a chance you'll catch it there, because literally you're just in very close contact with people. And some people are sneezing as well, and not everyone has a mask. Not everyone is covering their mouths either. So it was a bit scary, but then we got past that, got our bags, everything, and then I came home, and and then Mom and we self-quarantined for 14 days. The first time I have not left the house in 14 days. It was hard, because I'm used to leaving the house every single day, but we promised to do it, and it was the socially responsible thing to do, so we stayed home for 14 days.
Okay, so when in Dubai, how was it in Dubai? Because I kind of feel like we skipped Dubai. How many hours did you have layover in Dubai?
So we had a very short layover in Dubai, actually. We did that on purpose. So we originally had a 1 hour 30-minute layover in Dubai, but because they had to offload the Arab passengers that couldn't travel anymore, we got delayed when we were leaving. So when we got to Dubai, we literally had about 20 minutes to make our next flight. So like, we landed straight to our gate. We didn't stop anywhere. We just went straight to the gate and we boarded the plane.
Yes. And she forgot to mention that her bags were not delivered the same day she arrived.
Oh my gosh, my bags came 2 days later. I guess because of the confusion with the offloading.
But you know, Emirates is good. They delivered the bag to the house the next day in the evening.
That's true.
So hers was a bit smoother. Like I said, I wasn't prepared like her. By the time I was in Cuba, don't forget, I had used most of my wipes. I had like 2 sanitizer bottles, which are not so big. So I wasn't like her that I had 3 wipes to wipe the seats and wherever. So when I got to Istanbul, I had 11 hours layover. So my plan was get to the lounge, rest a bit, eat, shower. So I entered the lounge, ate a bit. You see, at this time, I don't have all this equipment. And everyone like most people had their masks. So my intention was to go straight to the lounge, because I didn't want to like roam around the airport. So I just bought one thing, went straight to the lounge. So the thing is, I rested a bit for like 5 hours, then I wanted to go shower, confirm my gate 4 hours before. So when I look at the screen, I just see Nairobi, Kenya cancelled. I went mad, guys. I was like, now how am I getting home? When I go to the desk, they just keep sending me from one lounge to another, one lounge to another. Then I reached a point, I was like, you know, you guys have to sort me out, because the ticket I bought from you guys, give me away. So they were like, look at this board and see the country that is nearest to your country. Okay. So me, Amuko, I'm seeing Entebbe, Dar es Salaam, but it's saying 2 days from now is when they're having a flight. When I looked at that board, 80% of those flights were cancelled. So I told them, it looks like Qatar Doha is open. They were like, Qatar Doha is not one of our routes. So I was like, okay, what's the option? I panicked. I called home. I called my travel agency. And in that time, they're telling you guys that, you know what, you pay for your flight. We can only reroute you to one of our routes.
Yeah.
Then I struggled. They told me, you can do Dar es Salaam 2 days from now. So I said, you know what, I don't have a visa. I can't exit the airport.
Yeah.
They were like, if you have a Schengen visa, a UK visa, or a US visa, go to the computer and apply. I went to apply because I thought, if I apply, then I get a Turkish visa, I can come out, go to a hotel, which they say they'll pay, and stay there for 2 days until my flight.
Yeah.
So as I was applying, I applied once, twice, it didn't go from the system. I went back to the desk, then I looked up, I just saw Zanzibar in the next 1.5 hours. I was like, put me on that flight. And thank God that they were, Zanzibar Kilimanjaro was one of their routes. So they put me on that flight. It didn't cost me anything, but from Zanzibar to Nairobi, I had to foot the bill myself. So I ran from one lounge to another, I booked it, I went, I showered, ate, and straight to my gate. When I was walking through the airport, I saw so many people who have been stuck there for many days. I found so many Kenyans. I found so many Tanzanians who'd been in the airport for 4 days, 5 days, waiting for a connecting flight. Because guys, the airline is not paying for you to reroute your flight. They are saying, if you reroute it, which even reminds me, you need to send them an email of the cost of the flight, then they'll refund. Some people don't have the money. You're in economy, you're in those lounges, you can't shower, you can't freshen up. They've been there for days, they don't have the money. So guys, it was a really bad situation. They don't have masks, they don't have gloves. And then there's this thing which I felt, just because I'm black, everyone, when they see you, they just want to be like, I don't know, keep a distance, And then in my head, I'm thinking, this time around, guys, just might be you who's giving it to me.
Yeah, this time around, we're the ones running back home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is not Ebola, guys. This is COVID-19. You gotta bring it to us.
Things are flipped.
Yeah, things are flipped. So, I would look at them and sometimes even cough. I'm like, just to make them feel, yes, I have it. Because I was so annoyed and pissed off. But eventually I got to the gate and I was able to get to Zanzibar, which was 13.5 hours from Turkey, Istanbul to Zanzibar. It was an excruciating flight. I didn't eat anything, but at least I think I was the only one on my side. The plane, by the way, to be honest, from Istanbul to Zanzibar, we were total of maybe 13. So you can imagine the airline went on a loss. And like Michelle said, maybe them in Emirates, they had masks and everything. Yeah. But the flight attendants, when we were in the plane, they did not have masks. They would wear gloves once in a while. I didn't eat much, but I remember I had one meal because it was a very long flight. When we landed in Zanzibar, it was a shocker. Guys, don't forget I'm traveling alone. Unlike Michelle, who was someone, I was alone. It was a solo trip. Coming back, because I was the first one to leave Cuba. I was the first person in the group to leave. The rest, I left them behind. So when I got to Zanzibar, at 4 a.m. Kenyan time. Zanzibar and Kenya, same Kenyan time. When I got there, the airport was a tiny little airport. Imagine Ukunda and then a little bit worse than Ukunda. So we got there, they had misplaced my luggage, but they found it because from Zanzibar, they go to Kilimanjaro. Kilimanjaro is their final destination. So from Zanzibar, guys came out, and then the shocker, the airport is so small. It's 4 a.m. in the morning. We came out, and when I came out, there were kibandas, literally kibandas, like kibandas in Makuti. So we found the kibandas were closed. It's 4 a.m. in the morning. Went to this restaurant, which was like in a kibanda, and then we just laid our carry-ons there, and because you had to come out with your luggage. Yeah. Because there's no one at who's moving it to the next flight. This is not a big airport. It's like a tiny, it's like Ukunda, even maybe a little bit worse than Ukunda. Yeah. So we carried our luggage. It was my 2 big luggages and 1 small one. So I'm there, I'm sleeping as I'm one eye open, checking my luggage. It's not like it had my just dirty clothes, but still. So I slept from 4 a.m. until 6:30 a.m. I was just there and waiting for them to open. When they opened up, I had my other fellow Kenyans who we also came with from Turkey. And I remember they opened, the first thing I asked them if they have mahamri and mandazi. So I was able to buy a breakfast for all of us. We had Muslim ladies, guys who I met in Istanbul. So bought them breakfast together because at least I had some dollars left. And we shared the breakfast, and at around, was it 10:30, I'm not sure, we boarded the flight back to Nairobi, which was only 1 hour. When I arrived to Nairobi, like Michelle said, they had no plan. You know, we are all muddled together,
Yeah.
temperature taken, fill the forms. I was very honest, said where I lived. The lines were long for me because at that time it was mid-morning and there were many flights landing, others from South Africa, from wherever. But to be honest, I saw so many students. And through this time, I did not have masks, I did not have gloves, I did not have wipes. All I had was sanitizer. I kept sanitizing my hand. Then eventually I got home, 14-day quarantine, and here we are creating content. But to be honest, guys, it was the most anxious time of my life. I was very scared. When I came home, I was very scared to infect the kids. I tried my best to self-isolate, not to leave the house. Immune drinks, which I'm shooting a video tomorrow on 3 immune drinks.
Yeah, I've been drinking so many juices.
Yeah.
I mean, we usually do it anyway, but we upped it. Like, we've been drinking a lot more, eating healthy, trying to keep our distance from everyone as well, which is hard because you're not used to doing that at home.
And Sean wants to come say hi to Michelle.
Yeah, and Sean doesn't understand. Like, he wants to hug you, but he doesn't get it. And then, yeah, and even just leaving the house, because there's always things you need to do, or it's just a natural instinct. Like, you wake up, it's like, this is where I feel like I should be, but you can't go.
Yes.
And you just have to discipline yourself and stay home.
And also just good to come home and just find Coco is home, Yanut, Michelle, Tito, Joshua, everyone was home. I was really worried about them because I wasn't able to access my WhatsApp. But when I got to Istanbul, at least Coco called me and we chatted and she was on our way home. And just to have everyone at home, have enough for all of us, and God has been gracious. But that was my experience, and I've never been away from home when there's been a pandemic or there's been a bomb or anything like that. It was my experience. But I think also in Istanbul, Mike really helped me to stay calm, and the travel agency, which is Tamani Concierge, really came through. Because from Zanzibar to Nairobi, they really organize a flight very fast. So yeah, so I want to just say, guys, stay safe, self-isolate. If you have to quarantine,
Yeah.
you feel the symptoms, go to hospital, take yourself.
Don't be scared, like, do it, yeah.
There's no
stay
stigma,
home. Yeah.
guys. No one is going outside there to look for COVID-19.
Yeah.
You can stay home and it still comes to you. Doesn't necessarily, you know, there's this thing that people who are traveling were bringing to us. Really, guys, let's be kind, let's be considerate.
Yeah.
Let's be humane, and let's remember that it's a disease affecting the whole world. Staying home and self-isolating is for everyone's benefit. And even us right now, we did the test, we are negative.
Yeah,
but we also have to take care of ourselves.
And we'll take it again in 14 days just to confirm our results. But yeah, stay home. Like, I feel like Kenya right now is at the place where the UK was before we left. And at that point, people weren't really taking it seriously. Guys are still going to work, still going to uni, whatever. And now they're at however many thousand cases. And God willing, Kenya won't get as bad as they have gotten. For those of you who can, I understand there are those that can't, but for those of you who can, self-isolate, quarantine, work from home where you can, limit your contact with people. You don't have to meet your friends. Meet up on house party, Zoom, whatever. Just be socially conscious.
What is house party?
Oh, it's an app where you can, like, chat with your friends. It's fun. Like, yeah. You can chat with your friends. But anyway, just do stuff like that. Be socially conscious, because you might think, oh, it's just a small barbecue with 5 people. One person gets infected there. They go and infect 10, 20 other people. And that's how it goes. And I understand in our country, like, 80% of people can't afford to self-isolate, as we're saying, or work from home. They live hand to mouth. So for those of you that can as well, no matter how small it is, help. Like, if you want, even if all you can do is one package, it might help one family. Like, reach out. And if you don't know how to distribute, or you don't know how to, you could reach out to mom and her blog, and they can direct you, because we're doing something to give back to people. But also, if you're thinking about giving back to communities, think about reaching out to the churches, the central organizations of those communities. Even if you feel uncomfortable going in to give the goods yourself, give them to the priest, the community leaders, let them distribute from there. But try to do your part as well. Because for Kenya, that's our biggest struggle. Majority of our population can't afford to self-isolate. So let's also live as a community, like as Africans, and try to help each other out where we can. Yeah,
but also for teenagers who are at home, like, we know our helps are not going off to their houses, because they're not going home for leave and offs, because we're afraid that they might transfer it. So teenagers who are at home, try to pull your weight, try to help the households. Consider that they also have families at home. They're tired. They're continuously working without a break. Pull your weight, guys. Wake up, make your bed, help them around the house, cook dinner, cook lunch. like
Oh, hell, be
lessen
polite to
the
them.
weight for them, because like even ours, they're not going on off.
Yeah, they're
and as
not.
much as we're compensating them in terms of finances, it's not enough, guys. They're tired. They're also human beings. They don't work on fuel. Be considerate.
Yeah.
Help starts from charity starts at home. The askari, the house girl, the person who makes your nails, the person who makes your hair, where you buy your coffee, help where you can.
Yeah.
There are so many people in this country who are going to suffer. The government is trying, but it cannot reach everyone.
Exactly.
It is not only the government job, but also us citizens to help each other. You know, that entertainer, that musician,
Yeah.
help where you can. That makeup artist.
Who's out of work now? Yeah.
Yeah, guys, even as much as the economy was terribly bad, but we know that we can always spare something for someone else, sacrifice something.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's
So
true.
guys, I hope it's been an informative video and shared our experience, but we are very grateful that you're home safe and sound, and will continue to self-isolate and take care of yourself. And I wish you guys all the best and keep a positive attitude.
And stay safe, guys.
Bye.
Bye.